Hello everybody, Larry Young here again with another segment of OLaMan, Living Life with Purity. And today what is today? Today is, I believe it's, this would be May the 8th. And the conclave has gone through, I think now 2 days of voting or whatnot and no pope. But let's talk about the smoke that they've sent up. So smoke plays a big role in these things as far as how it's used by the Vatican and the church in different ways. So I want to talk about the two ways that smoke is used in this arena. The first one, obviously everyone's thinking about, are the smoke signals that the Cardinals use when they burn the ballots and send them up. If there's no pope arrived at, they didn't get the consensus, the smoke will be black. But if they do reach a consensus, then when they burn the ballots, the smoke will be white. They add something to it that makes this white smoke, or they add something to the ones that make it black. I don't know what they do, but one time there's an additive, another time it's pure. We have smoke signals being used to communicate a message, and so it's vivid and clear for all to see, so that there's a complete transparency. This has been an age-old tradition, and it's one that a lot of people around the world, not even Catholic, look forward to with great anticipation, because they want to know who the church is deciding to take on to lead them. So they try to do that and is most transparent that they can, although they won't let you hear their deliberations or see the information sheets that the Vatican staff has put out on all these different cardinals, because, to tell you the truth, the cardinals don't know each other. These guys are all over the world, and they don't know each other. They know of each other, but they don't know each other. There may be several here and there that have personal relationships with each other, but by and large, these guys are pretty much strangers, and they probably pass each other on the street had they not been in uniform or wearing their red robes and things like that to signify who they were. But if these guys were out on a golf course and shaking a 9-iron out there, I don't think anyone would recognize them as being anything special. So that being said, the Vatican and other people also use smoke as a screen. And smoke screens are used by magicians, they're used by politicians, they're used by our church. And what the smoke screen is used to do is to conceal the truth. And that's a sad thing, because when you have the smoke signal, it's very clear, it's very direct. It's either black or white. There's not a purple color that comes out. There's no blue smoke. There's no red smoke or anything like that. It's either black or white. It's either yes or no, on or off, that type of thing. But when you have a smoke screen, there's no color, there's no real visibility. It's just a void, or it's something you can't see through. And when they do these things, they're doing it to try to hide the truth as to what's going on behind it, so people really don't know. When you're using smoke as a signal, the intention of the sender is to let you know and accept the results that have been arrived at. And here's the determination, here's a signal, here's our message to show you. So that's a smoke signal. When you get a smoke screen, they want you to accept the nothingness that they show you, and they want you to go away with no end result. They want you to just accept that as how it is and walk away and be quiet. They don't want you to investigate. If you do investigate, you're the problem. And if you don't believe me, just ask Archbishop Vigano. The man's in hiding right now because people have threatened him. His life is at stake because people didn't like what he was saying about some of the things going on at the Vatican, and especially with the Cardinals, the class of Cardinals. So what has happened here is that the cult has circled around the cardinals and the bishops and the other people under scrutiny, and they've shoved out what they say is the antagonist, or the person calling calumny in their situation, and they've kicked him out. This is total cult behavior. This is the kind of thing that you should be very concerned about. The Catholic Church, all churches are cults. The woke mentality is a cult. MAGA, I guess, is a cult. But the Catholic Church is definitely a cult. And it can be good. It can also be very, very bad. And here's a situation where I think it's bad with these smoke screens. So back to the Cardinals doing the selection. The Cardinals doing all this selection here and investigating about who should be the next pope, they have a great motivation to keep the status quo, at least as far as many things go. They need to come up with something, and I believe that their message is going to be that there's going to be change, and there's going to be good change that's happening out of this. No matter what they do, they're going to come out with a message saying that this is change, and this is going to be for the good of the church. This is going to bring more awareness, bringing people back to God, blah, blah, blah. And they could say whatever they want, and the majority of the people around the world are just going to accept it for what they say, because most people don't follow closely enough to understand, and the church counts on this to maintain their smoke screen, their cover-up as to what's going on. And I'm not saying that everybody in the church is responsible on this. I think there's 2 different levels, or maybe even 3 different levels of power in the church, depending on where you are in the world and where your assignment is and these types of things. Who's got the power? Some have more power than others. And this is not a healthy situation when you're trying to deal with the spiritual realm and the spiritual health of over 1 billion people. Or I don't know exactly how many there are, but there's a shitload of them. So what do we do here in this? So we need to blow away this smoke screen, and we need to listen to our warning canary, that being Archbishop Vigano, and we need to follow the money. And Pope Francis shut down the audit that was going on. Why? Well, because it was going to lay bare a lot of things that none of these guys want to be known. And it starts off with the truth about who's making the money, how they're making the money, what they're doing with the money, and why they have all this money. This is not, I think, part of their mission statement as cardinals and leaders of the church. The cardinals refuse to report their incomes or wealth, and the Vatican has this as a supported policy. So the Vatican doesn't make them report these things, and if they do, it's done under confidence and under the shell and concealment here of these smoke screens. For one, I mean, we'll just talk about the U.S. situation, and he's not even the worst of them. And we got Tim Dolan, who lives in New York. He resides in a $50 million mansion in Manhattan, 15,000 square feet for one guy, allegedly. He isn't even the worst of the people, but he won't talk about the money he makes or what he has or what he's been able to compile because there's not a lot of rules that says what they can and cannot do with the real estate holdings in their areas and benefactors that give money because they want to be closer to, the church and, maybe, thinking that they're still buying indulgences, this evil practice that we've been going on for the longest time. And it probably is still going on with these, $1 million handshakes and things like that these guys get. So we have to have some clearing of these smoke screens to take a look at these things. Like I said, Archbishop Vigano is in hiding. The man's courageous as all hell because he just had the courage to speak about it. And when he did that, he finally got shut down because he was getting too close to the Cardinals and the truth about things, and they didn't want this coming out. He knows the truth, they know the truth, but not a single one of them is going to talk about it. So the church really doesn't want your everyday people, the you and I of the world, who work every day to pay their bills, to really know the truth. They hide behind their piety and rituals to keep the faithful down while they fast on prime rib and lobster tails on somebody else's dime. Now, it's not everybody, but it's enough of them that it's a problem. And if anyone doesn't believe me, you're not looking at the truth. So we need to call these things out. I know everyone wants to say, oh, not my guy, he's wonderful, blah, blah, blah. And then you find out a year or so later on he's under federal charges or something like this for having helped cover up things that should have been reported and should have been out in the open. And Tim Dolan has got a lot of problems himself with what he did back in Milwaukee and probably still doing in New York. I haven't looked into that, but the man was paying $20,000 to get rid of priests so that they didn't have to go through more of the public embarrassment and prosecution of these guys. He thought just getting them to leave was enough. No, you got to follow through on these things. You got to finish the job. And they weren't doing that. And they've basically tried to pave their way to their own great ending to this, nasty story that just isn't truthful, and it isn't going to settle things until it's dealt with in a very direct and precise manner. So we need to not go in and do surgery. I think in some places we need to be doing some actual, amputations of some of these things and moving in a little bit different direction. This is why I think the church is in the state of problem that it is right now, and it's going to take some really tough action to clean things up if we're to survive profitably, not profitably, but profitably as far as moving people forward productively. That's what I meant, not profitably, but productively. So I don't think we have any chance of fixing the damage the church has until they themselves, the church authorities, the priests, the bishops, the cardinals, the Pope himself, whoever it is at that time, that until they come to grips with answering the pleas of the Blessed Mother has been making for over 108 years, beginning back in 1917 with Fatima. She says, my priests must turn away from their worldliness. And she saw the problem coming, and she tried to interject herself at that time in 1917, and she told them that she didn't want them to release this information until 1960. She said to set on it because she knew that would give her priests, the church, time to self-correct. And in that time, they didn't do it. And so in 1917, she first comes as Our Lady of Fatima, and as part of her messages, she says, hey, basically, you guys got to, straighten up. You're on the wrong track here. 1956, she comes again in Rome City, Indiana, and announces herself as Our Lady of America, asking to be named as Queen of our country and to be held in esteem in a rightful place at the National Shrine to the Immaculate Conception in Washington, D.C. Something we've been working towards, I've been working towards. Didn't know anything about it, but I kind of got drafted into this. Not complaining, just saying, I can't do this alone, and you can't either. We got to do it together, but we have to stand up and start demanding some things, because taking this path of being just blindly obedient behind these smoke screens is going to lead to the actual ruin of things. So, just like the magician, when all of a sudden the puff of smoke goes away, there's nothing there. Very similar situation. So, in 1956, she comes again, 4 years before her asked for date of 1960. She asks it again. What do? Nothing. Well, part of it is because they didn't know about it so much, because Sister Millie wasn't all that successful in getting things out to all the bishops, because Archbishop Leibold was doing what he could, but he had to do it in a time that was set by the structures put in place by the folks at the Vatican who like to employ these smoke screens. So 1956 comes and goes, and then 1960 it comes and nothing happens. The church doesn't do what they were directed to do in 1917. So Our Lady comes again, I think it was in 1963. I think there were 3 to 5 messages were given at Garabandal. And I think they started in 1960 and ended in 1965. But I think it was in 63. She says, "My request has not been fulfilled. Many priests are walking through the path of perdition and taking with them many souls. You should do more sacrifice, think more in the passion of Jesus." What does she mean by that? She was basically saying, you guys are on the wrong path and you're going to lead all my children down the wrong road. You're screwing up. You're not listening to what I've been telling you. You need to change. You need to get on this because you're on the wrong path. She's saying, straighten up. And she's saying, you need to think more in the passion of Jesus. Jesus was poor. Maybe we should have them be poor too and make sure. Maybe the church needs to be brought down in its riches. Otherwise, we're not going to have a basis to grow from with these smoke screens. So think about these things. Alex is going to be back in here. We're going to talk about these things a little bit more. But these are a problem because Our Lady's been asking for 108 years. And for a church that has such high regard for the mother of our Lord and Savior, they sure aren't acting like it. In the meantime, I love you, and I'll be back.